A very good morning, friends. In the last video, we had a discussion on Piaget theory of moral development, and today we'll have a discussion on a theory which is interlinked with Piaget theory of moral development. I think you might have understood which theory I'm talking about. Any guess? Yes, you are rightly guessing. I'm talking about Kohlberg theory of moral development, and this theory was the extension of Piaget's two stages of moral development. And this theory was extended because Kohlberg was very much interested in moral development, and to develop this theory, Kohlberg undertaken a research which is a cross-sectional research, and cross-sectional research is nothing but an observational research which is maybe conducted without manipulating the study environment. And the concept behind cross-sectional research is, in this research, different population group may be studied in a single point of time. That is the concept behind cross-sectional research. And for this research, Kohlberg used a qualitative technique, that is interview, and the core sample was 72 white boys. All are from lower and middle class families, and all are from Chicago City. And the age ranges from 10 to 16-year-old children. And the interview consisted of a series of dilemma, but the most important dilemma was Heinz dilemma. We'll discuss in the next section of the slide. And this presentation was divided into two episodes. In the first episode, we'll have a discussion on life sketch of Kohlberg, then Heinz dilemma. On the basis of Heinz dilemma, questions formulated by Kohlberg, and those questions which are put forward in front of the students, and the students are interviewed on the basis of that questions, and the responses are collected, and after that the stages of the level of moral development is developed by Kohlberg. And let us now come to the life sketch of Kohlberg. Kohlberg, the full name was Lawrence Kohlberg. He was born on 25th October 1927, Bronxville, New York City. His parents were Alfred Kohlberg, who was a silk merchant, and his mother was Charlotte Albrecht, who was a very skilled chemist. He is awarded PhD in psychology from University of Chicago in 1958 and served many universities like Yale University in 1959 as assistant professor. Then University of Chicago in 1962 and joined there as an associate professor. Then Harvard University and joined there as professor of education and social psychology and served there between 1968 to 1987. His death was very unfortunate because he had committed suicide, and the cause of suicide was very clear, because of depression. While he was conducting a research, a cross-cultural research, more correctly, a cross-cultural research in Village, which was in a Caribbean country, and Village is very nearer to northeastern coast of Central America. In 1971, he was contracted with a very deadly parasite, and this parasite caused a very severe abdominal pain, and because of that, he might have committed suicide. And that was from New York Times. His body was recovered after 15 days of his suicide, and that was from New York Times. And his major contribution, what we are discussing today, that is Stages of Moral Development, and the famous book Philosophy of Moral Development in 1981, and the Psychology of Moral Development. These are the life sketches of Kohlberg. And as I have discussed earlier, Kohlberg was very much inspired by Jean Piaget's two stages of moral development, and that two stages are moral realism and moral relativism. Moral realism is talking about morality imposed from outside, that means parent, teachers, God, they will formulate the rules and that should be obeyed. Rule is being absolute and unchanging. And if someone broke the rules, then he or she will be punished. If he did, he will be punished, then he might have did some mistakes, or he might have broke the rules. This is the moral realism. And moral relativism is talking about children recognize there is no absolute right or wrong, and the morality depends on intention, not consequences. As for example, in a school, for the same mistake, a teacher may punish the child, and for the same mistake, another teacher may not punish the child. And the morality and the rules are changing from person to person. This is all about moral relativism. And these two stages are developed by Piaget, and this was further extended by Kohlberg. In the next slide, we'll have a discussion on that. As I mentioned earlier, Kohlberg, before developing this theory, he put forward a story, a dilemma, which is filled with dilemma, and that famous story was known as Heinz dilemma. And Heinz was a person who was living somewhere in Europe, and this Heinz dilemma was put in front of 72 white boys, and their responses are collected based on some questions. And Lawrence Kohlberg in 1958 formulated this theory. Let us come to the next slide. And this slide, in this person, suppose this person was Heinz. One day his wife felt sick, and he taken his wife into the hospital, and the doctor told it's a specific type of cancer and need a specific medicine, and that specific medicine was available with a specific pharmacy, only one pharmacy. And that pharmacy increased the cost of medicine into 10 times, that is from $200 to $2,000. Heinz requested a lot to that pharmacy that please give the medicine because I want to save the life of my wife, but the pharmacist did not agree with Heinz. So what Heinz did, Heinz tried his best and collect money from his friends and families, and he managed to collect $1,000. And further he came to that pharmacy and tried to negotiate the cost of the medicine into 50%, but that pharmacist did not agree with Heinz and told that I made this medicine to earn money, not to give it in charity. So Heinz was very much sad, and he thought a lot and decided to break into the pharmacy and steal the drugs. This was the story which was put in front of the 72 white boys. And after putting this story, Kohlberg formulated some questions. Let us come to the next slide. The questions are in this way. Should Heinz have stolen the drug? Would it change anything if Heinz did not love his wife? What if the person dying was a stranger? That means that person was unknown to Heinz. Would it make any differences? Would the police arrest the chemist for murder if the woman died? And these questions are put in front of the 72 white boys. And the most important thing was that Kohlberg was not interested in the answer yes or no. That means if he asked the question, should Heinz have stolen the drug, the student may say yes or no arbitrarily. But he was very much interested in the reasoning behind the answer. That means if the student is saying yes, Heinz should stole the drug, then why he's saying that? If the students say Heinz should not stolen the drug, why? This should be the reasoning behind it, and Kohlberg was very much interested on the reasoning. Let us come to the next slide. After collecting the responses from 72 white boys who are in the age group of 10 to 16 years, Kohlberg identified three distinct levels of moral reasoning. That levels are pre-conventional, which is otherwise known as pre-moral, conventional level, which is otherwise known as moral, and the third one is post-conventional level, which is known as post-moral level. And each level is further divided into two stages. That means pre-conventional into stage 1, stage 2, conventional into stage 3, stage 4, post-conventional into stage 5 and stage 6. Let us come to the next slide. As the first level, pre-conventional level, the stage 1. Stage 1 is obedience and punishment orientation. Stage 2, that is individualism and exchange. Then level 2, conventional level, that is stage 3, that is good interpersonal relationship. Stage 4, maintaining the social order. Then level 3, post-conventional level, which is comprised of stage 5 and stage 6. Stage 5 is social contract and individual right. Stage 6 is universal principle. As we have discussed earlier, this presentation is divided into 2 episodes. In the first episode, let us stop here, and in the next episode we'll have a discussion, we'll have an explanation on each and every stages of development and with examples. So for a better understanding, you may see the next episode, episode 2 of Kohlberg theory of moral development. You can find the explanation with example. So thank you very much for your patience, save your environment, and you can find the links for Piaget theory of moral development and Piaget theory of cognitive development. In this link you can visit. Thanks. If you have any queries, questions regarding this video, this presentation, you might have give a comment, or you might have give a mail to me, so that we'll have a discussion. Let us learn together. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.